The Akatsuki was one of the most entertaining yet also one of the most powerful forces throughout the entirety of Naruto. But amongst the powerful, there were those even more powerful, and that is the topic of today's video: the most powerful Akatsuki members. Like, share, and subscribe, as well as comment down below on any thoughts you'll have about this video. Now, before getting right into the video, let me just state that I'm primarily going to be focusing on these characters whilst they were actually in the Akatsuki. Yes, I'm going to go on to a couple other feats whilst they are not in the Akatsuki, just to better understand their power and abilities, but primarily focusing on their Akatsuki days. I will also only be using pure Akatsuki members, the main Akatsuki members, so no Orochimaru or Sasuke or anything like that, the main Akatsuki members. Now let's get into it. We'll start at the bottom of the list, Zetsu. So yes, Zetsu is able to manipulate his body and kind of create clones of himself, and he's able to, I guess, kind of shift through matter and even somewhat react to Naruto. But in comparison to the other Akatsuki members, he doesn't actually display many feats that would allow me to scale him any higher than where he is already. He was just primarily a spy during his Akatsuki days, just popping in and out at sometimes and then disappearing. There's not any massive feats I could actually use for Zetsu that should imply that he should be any higher on this list. Next up, we got Hidan. So Hidan did state himself that he is technically the weakest and slowest member of the Akatsuki, and that is obviously a fact. So that in that aspect, I guess he's technically slower and weaker than Zetsu, but given that he's able to pair off against Asuma and against Kakashi, who are both like elite jonin, it obviously scales him a bit higher in my opinion, and because that means he has insane taijutsu. But not just that, Hidan is also obviously immortal, makes him literally unkillable. I don't think Zetsu can actually kill him. And there's also the fact that Hidan can literally sacrifice other people just by gaining a bit of their blood, which is a good asset for him given that he is really good at taijutsu. So I'd scale Hidan above Zetsu. Next up, we've got Sasori. Now I know this is where it gets really controversial and complicating. I do obviously believe that Sasori can easily beat the previous two characters I've already mentioned. He has hundreds of puppets, all of them possessing insane levels of power. I mean, Hiruko on himself is really durable and has poison, which I technically believe would mean nothing to both Zetsu and Hidan, but he still does have a lot of different weapons besides from the poison. And then you get to the third Kazekage's puppet with the Iron Sand, which is also versatile. I think he definitely beats Hidan and Zetsu at that point. But then you get the 100 puppets, which is just unfair, and he absolutely annihilates both these characters. Sasori is an insanely powerful character with an insanely large arsenal, but above him I've put Kanan. See, I recently made a video where I talked about Kanan versus Sasu, and I explained that Kanan still has the capabilities of defeating Sasu, and I still do stand by that, because Sasu, though he has hundreds of puppets, Kanan has hundreds to thousands of papers which can cut through Sasu's puppets, and on top of that they can also be changed into whatever she wants, whichever kind of weapon she wants, and even turned into paper bombs which could absolutely annihilate Sasu's army, as well as annihilate Zetsu and Hidan. And on top of that, Kanan's actually quite fast, being able to keep up with Obito's levels of speed, who is around KCM Naruto levels of speed, which is obviously quite impressive for Kanan. She even has one of the greatest power feats throughout the entirety of the Akatsuki, with the billions of paper bombs. So she is obviously insanely powerful. Next up though, I've got Kakuzu. I literally see no way for the previous characters I've already mentioned to actually beat Kakuzu. Kakuzu, possessing his diamond morph ability with his natural heart inside of him, he has insane durability that none of the previous characters I've already mentioned can actually break through. Perhaps you could make arguments for Sasori's poison affecting his eyes or something like that, but I think that's quite unlikely. Kakuzu just has insane durability that none of the previous characters can actually get past, regardless of their insane levels of power. And on top of that, he has obviously quite a large arsenal, possessing multiple different chakra natures and having a lot of different ways of attacking with those different chakra natures. He is close range and long range, and he's one of the physically strongest Akatsuki members, also decently fast, being able to keep up and overpower Kakashi for a good portion of their fight. So yeah, I think Kakuzu is fair to be here. Next up, I've got Deidara. So I've put Deidara above Kakuzu because not only does Deidara have C1, which is okay, it's powerful, but he also has C2, which is really powerful, and by then destroys Kakuzu's mask. And then he has C3, which can take out an entire village, definitely destroys Kakuzu's mask. Perhaps Kakuzu will be able to tank it because of his diamond morph, but he can't exactly tank C4, which is a durability negating attack, and none of the characters I've already mentioned can actually tank C4 because it does take them out on a cellular level, so it does absolutely annihilate all of the previous characters I've already mentioned. I don't think there's need to even talk about C0 because though it is like an insanely powerful attack, it does kind of it is kind of pointless because that means Deidara himself dies. Nevertheless, Deidara is fast enough to react to heavy Sasuke and keep up with him to some extent. He's also insanely smart, being one of the smartest Akatsuki members in total, which is obviously quite impressive. He also has somewhat genjutsu resistance, which is also quite useful to him, and in general he has just an insanely large arsenal, so that I think would allow him to be here on this list. Next up, we've got Kisame Hoshigaki. So Kisame is also one of the physically strongest Akatsuki members. On top of that, he's also insanely fast, being able to keep up with a cloaked bee's levels of speed, which is obviously quite impressive given that a base bee could overpower Sasuke, Taka Sasuke, who's faster than a heavy Sasuke, who I've already mentioned was someone who was actually faster than Deidara, and Deidara was struggling to keep up with these levels of speed. But on top of that, before Sasuke became heavy Sasuke, he was already able to beat Sakura, and Sakura was someone who was able to keep up with Sasori's levels of speed, which immediately means that Kisame is faster than both Deidara and Sasori. And then he also has insane durability, being able to tank a Hirudora, which is like tail beast level in my opinion, and that is obviously also quite impressive because he was able to tank that and then still fight even after that. And then he's also quite skilled, experienced in battle. He has an absolutely insane arsenal with so many different water abilities, with the different water, with the shark bombs, and being able to make water clones that are relative to his strength and speed, being able to trap people in water bubbles which he can use to drown them, which is also quite impressive because I don't think any character I've already mentioned can survive that, besides for I guess those characters who are technically immortal or dead. So that's obviously insane. And then if he goes into his second state and traps you into the water, big water bubble, then you have no way of escaping. Maybe Kanan can like fly away, or Deidara can also fly away, but I think he'll kill them before they're actually able to do that. And in general, Kisame does obviously absorb chakra with his massive shark bombs, and in general with his body, which is obviously a massive asset to him and allows him even greater advantages in any battle he is in. Now, I know this is where it gets really controversial and problematic, but at number 3, I've put Pain. So obviously Pain is insanely powerful. He's able to keep up with a 6-tailed Naruto's levels of speed, which is impressive given that this Nagato was already running out of chakra and he is still able to do that. On top of that, he's able to hold his own against Sage Mode level characters in terms of physical strength, and he has an absolutely insane arsenal with many one-shot wins like stealing people's souls and the Jubaku Tensei, which no Akatsuki member has a counter for, besides for, I guess, Obito could just simply teleport away. Besides for Obito, no Akatsuki member actually has a way of avoiding the Jubaku Tensei and does absolutely annihilate them. And on top of that, he can absorb ninjutsu, summon many creatures, create mechanical weapons that are obviously quite impressive, resurrect his allies, and steal people's souls. His arsenal is absolutely insane. I mean, he was technically kind of the leader of the Akatsuki, so I think that's kind of expected. Next up, we've got, this is going to be a bad one, but we've got Obito Uchiha. So Obito obviously has quite a few different fire style jutsu, which are obviously quite impressive. He is at KCM 2 Naruto levels of speed, even in his orange mask, given that at the age of 14, he could keep up with a Hokage Minato, who at Jonin level was already relative to a KCM 1 Naruto. So I think Obito at orange mask state is already like KCM 2 Naruto levels of speed, which is on its own quite impressive. He's also insanely durable, being able to tank a Rasengan from a Hokage Minato and from KCM 2 Naruto during the war arc, also quite impressive. And then he's also quite skilled, being able to keep up with Kakashi's combat skills, and he was trained by Madara. And on top of all that, he does have a few abilities on his side, like his shurikens, his fire style, which is obviously quite powerful, and most importantly, his kame, which obviously allows him to negate many of the attacks many people might direct in his way. And his speed obviously does even complement that even further, being one of the fastest, if not the fastest, Akatsuki member. So I don't think there's any way for all the previous characters to firmly defeat Obito, and I think he does defeat them all. And then that does mean that at number 1, we've got Itachi Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha has one of the largest arsenals throughout the entirety of the Akatsuki. He has fire style, he has water style, he has Amaterasu, which is a one-shot win, he has the Totsuka blade with the Susanoo and the Yaruma mirror. The Totsuka blade is also a one-shot win for Itachi. He has Izanami, which can counter Obito and allows him to actually defeat Obito. And on top of that, he has the most powerful genjutsu, that being Tsukuyomi, even more powerful than Obito's genjutsu, which is able to control a perfect Jinchuriki. Itachi's arsenal is just absolutely insane, and it's complemented by his insane speed, being relative to like KCM 2 Naruto levels of speed as well. And on top of all that, he's also one of the smartest, if not the smartest, Akatsuki member. So yeah, I believe Itachi Uchiha is the most powerful Akatsuki member, and I'm sure many people are going to have a lot of comments and thoughts about this entire video. It's completely understandable if y'all do. If y'all have any of those comments, please leave them down below. This is MC Info, and I'm out.